Hi, I'm Richard Rose here with columnist Bob Robb, and that is not a typo on this headline. Bob, you say Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema's plan for a border surge of resources is actually going to be more effective than Governor Doug Ducey's.
Yes. Ducey joined with Texas Governor Greg Abbott to send a letter to all the other governors in the country saying, hey, please round up a posse and send them to the border to try to chase down people who are crossing the border illegally for illicit purposes. And while we can always do more to protect the border against illegal entry where people are trying to avoid capture, the problem at the border are people who show up illegally, turn themselves into immigration officials and ask for asylum. Our asylum system is overwhelmed and it is broken. And Kyrsten Sinema has teamed up with another Texas Republican, Senator John Cornyn, to propose a bill for a surge of asylum officers and immigration judges to see if we can, at least on a more orderly basis, process those claims and hopefully process them expeditiously enough that, since the odds of getting asylum ultimately are relatively limited, eliminates the desire of people to flood the border seeking asylum.
Right, because as you mentioned in the column, under the old asylum standards, and I guess it was something that maybe people didn't know about or use to a great effect in the numbers we're seeing now, at least, people could present themselves after crossing legally or illegally and then claim asylum, and then they'd stay in the country until they had a court date where someone determined whether they were here or not. So Senator Sinema is looking at flooding that zone, right? Creating more people to at least give a first look at those cases?
It is a two-part process. An asylum officer decides whether there's credible fear of returning to the person's country of origin. And then if the answer is yes, and prior to the Trump administration, the answer usually was yes, people will actually admit it into the country. And given a court hearing, oftentimes a year, 2 years, even 3 years in the future. And so they're actually in the country. Despite that, very few people who have a claim adjudicated actually are awarded asylum. Asylum is a difficult thing to qualify for. You have to have a valid fear of persecution because of falling into particular categories. It can't just be that the place that you're trying to leave is a rotten place to live, that there's abject poverty or even criminal violence. It needs to be something that falls into one of these specific categories. So the idea of the Sinema Corden bill is, let's create these processing centers, let's surge the resources, and let's try to get through that process much more quickly. So you no longer can be in the country for years based upon the initial determination. And you can give greater scrutiny to that initial determination. I think there's some hope that it would send a signal that if you come to the country, you don't have a guarantee that you're going to get in. At a minimum, it would make the process far more orderly and reduce the disorder that's creating such a problem at the border.
And while you praise that plan, you call Governor Ducey's proposed action or asking for people to come to the border from other states silly, sort of a ploy to get Republican governors elected across the country. Is immigration still going to be a winning issue for the GOP in 2022?
If the disorder on the border isn't substantially improved between now and 2022, I think it does become a powerful issue for Republicans to use. And the purpose of Ducey and Abbott's letter wasn't to actually get a whole bunch of law enforcement officials to come from other states to Arizona. It was to call attention to the issue. And the Biden administration, while it wants to unwind the Trump policies, doesn't seem to have any ideas about how to remedy the disorder and the way in which our asylum system is being overwhelmed, which is why I think that attention ought to be paid to what Sinema and Corden have proposed, because they are practical next steps that have some hope of reducing that disorder.
Yeah, we'll see in the Congress as it's made up now if this has a chance of getting through and actually maybe getting the asylum process reformed a bit. Always good to see you.
You bet.